Dear listeners, this is Secrets in the Smoke. Settle in, breathe slow, and let the darkness do the talking. I don't know how much time I have left. My hands are already fading, slowly, grain by grain, like ash being carried off by wind. My reflection in the glass? It's barely there. A blur, a shadow where a face should be. I don't think I'll last the night. But before I vanish completely, there's something I need to say. Something I need you to listen. Because I found something. And I shouldn't have. It was buried deep in the belly of a rotting house at the edge of town. You know the kind, half swallowed by weeds, the kind of place kids dare each other to enter, then never do. I went in alone. The floorboards groaned under me like something waking up. In one corner, where the wood had rotted through, I found it, stuffed beneath cracked boards and centuries of dust and rot. A pocket-sized leather journal. Old, brittle, the kind of thing you're supposed to leave alone. But I didn't. The cover was torn, soaked through with time. The pages? Caked in dried mud. The ink inside had bled and warped, like it had been written in a panic. The handwriting jittered across the paper, fast, desperate. And the last entry. God, the last entry still echoes in my skull. If you found this, it means they haven't taken you yet. It means you still have time. But if you've seen their eyes, then God help you, because it's already too late. I stared at those words for what felt like hours. My fingers went cold. My heart started hammering like it knew something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. How did he know? How did he know what I'd seen? What I couldn't forget? Shit, man. I didn't sign up for any of this. But I need you to understand. Before I'm gone, before the last piece of me slips through your memory like I was never here, let me tell you what happened. It began on an ordinary Friday. Rain drizzled like a sigh against the windshield as I pulled up to the school parking lot. The kind of gray afternoon where even the sky seems half asleep. I was there to pick up Caleb, my sister Leah's son. I'd been doing it for months. She worked late shifts, I had the free time. Routine, simple, normal. I parked under the same crooked tree near the front office. The leaves above whispered secrets in the wind, but I didn't listen. I should have. Inside, the school felt wrong. Not loud. Not chaotic. Not how a school should feel when the final bell rings. The halls were too quiet. Footsteps echoed where laughter should have lived. Doors stood ajar. Shadows clung to corners like they didn't want to leave. A janitor pushed a mop across the tiles, slow and aimless. His eyes flicked to me once. Then away. I kept walking. Caleb's classroom was at the end of the hall. Mrs. Harris's room. Bright, usually. Decorated with silly posters and glittery construction paper projects. But that day, the lights flickered overhead, buzzing softly like trapped flies. The air was cold. The walls looked duller somehow, as if the color had been quietly drained. And Caleb's desk was empty. I stood in the doorway for a moment, heart kicking at my ribs. Mrs. Harris looked up from her papers and smiled. That smile didn't reach her eyes. "Can I help you?" she asked. My throat was dry. "I'm here for Caleb." She tilted her head. "Caleb," I said again, louder. "My nephew. I pick him up every Friday." The teacher blinked once. Twice. Her mouth opened, but the words hesitated behind her teeth. "I'm sorry," she said, "but I don't have a student named Caleb." I felt it then. Not confusion. Not panic. Something colder. Something that slid up my spine like the fingers of a corpse. "Yes, you do," I said, my voice sharper. "He's been in your class all year. Leah's son. Caleb. You've met me before." Mrs. Harris's brow furrowed for a moment, like a memory almost surfaced. Almost, but didn't. Then her face smoothed out. Blank. reassuring. "You must be thinking of someone else," she said softly. "Why don't you go home? Get some rest." The world tilted sideways. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just turned and walked out of that classroom with something gnawing at the edges of my thoughts. Something that hissed the word, liar. I called Leah on the way home. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. By the time I got to her house, the rain had stopped, but the clouds still hung heavy like a funeral waiting to happen. The door was unlocked. I stepped inside. Silence met me like an old friend. "Leah?" I called out. No answer. The lights were on. Her car was in the driveway. The house smelled like cinnamon candles and warm laundry. But no one was home. And then I saw the photographs. Dozens of them. Leah as a teenager. Our parents. Old birthdays, Christmases. Family memories. But in every single one, where Caleb should have been. He wasn't. Not faded. Not blurred. Not scratched out. Just gone. As if the space had been left for him, but never filled. I stood there, staring, my mind trying to scream over what my eyes already knew. The universe was lying to me. Something had been taken. I spent the night tearing through files, records, and school databases. There was no Caleb registered at Westbrook Elementary. No Caleb on Leah's Facebook. Not a single text from him on my phone. Except, I had one. A video. I opened it with trembling fingers. It showed Caleb in the back seat of my car. Grinning. Singing off-key to some pop song. "You're the worst singer ever," I'd said. He'd flipped the camera off with a big toothy grin and said, "Love you too, Uncle Sam." The video ended. I played it again. And again. And again. Until I noticed something. Each time I replayed it, Caleb's voice got quieter. His face, blurry. By the 10th replay, it was just a shadow in the seat. And then, the video wouldn't load. Corrupted. Gone. I felt something shift deep in my chest. Like a door cracking open in the dark part of my brain. I barely slept. Just sat on the couch, staring at nothing, with the bitter taste of fear curdling in my mouth. I didn't go to work the next day. I couldn't. I sat in the living room, still in yesterday's clothes, blinds drawn, lights off. My phone was dead. Not the battery, just the phone. It wouldn't respond. It was like holding a hunk of useless plastic from a world I no longer belonged to. I tried calling my sister again. From the landline. Nothing but static on the other end. When I drove back to her house later, it was empty again. But this time, something felt off. The cinnamon smell was gone. The laundry basket still sat near the couch, but the clothes inside were damp and starting to mildew. Mail lay scattered by the door, unopened. Time had stopped in that house. And then I saw it, a child's drawing stuck to the fridge. A stick figure boy. Black crayon hair. A smiling woman beside him. Mom and me written in block letters at the top. But the boy's name was scrawled in smeared pencil and crossed out violently. Over and over. Beneath it, written in all caps, was just one word. Forget. I did everything a person is supposed to do when someone goes missing. I even hacked into school records just to double check what I already knew. But no matter where I looked, it was always the same result: blank stares, puzzled voices, and a terrifying lack of answers. No report. No missing child alert. No school files. No Caleb. It was like he'd never set foot on this planet. But I remembered him. His laugh, the way he refused to eat vegetables unless you tricked him into thinking they were dinosaur food, the time he broke his arm trying to jump off the garage because he thought he could fly. I remembered all of it. Every moment. And yet, I was alone in that memory. That night, I dreamed of Caleb. He stood in the backyard, his silhouette framed by the swing set. The sky above him was wrong, too wide, too red, like a wound stretched open across the stars. He wasn't moving. Just watching me. I tried to walk toward him, but the ground stretched farther with each step. Like the world didn't want us to meet. And then he opened his mouth. But it wasn't his voice that came out. It was a chorus of whispers. Hundreds of them. Soft. Insistent. You must forget. You must forget. You must forget. When I woke up, the bed was soaked with sweat. And my throat ached. Like something had been pulled out of me while I slept. I began noticing gaps. Little things at first. A neighbor waved at me one morning and called me by the wrong name. Sean, she said. I didn't correct her. I wasn't sure she was wrong. I stood in the shower for 15 minutes trying to remember what I did for a living. I opened my wallet, stared at my license. The name on it was starting to fade. Not scratched or rubbed off, just fading, like the ink itself was forgetting who I was. And then my reflection. At first, it was just a flicker, something off about the way my head tilted, like I was lagging behind myself. Then it got worse. I would look into the mirror and feel the crushing, nauseating certainty that I was looking at someone else. One afternoon, I was at the grocery store. Nothing unusual at first, just pushing my cart through the aisles, trying to remember what I came in for. That's when I saw her. A woman, maybe mid-30s, stood motionless in the cereal aisle. She was staring down into her shopping cart like it had just betrayed her. Her lips moved slightly, but no words came out. Then she looked around, slowly, like the world had shifted without telling her. Her eyes met mine for a second. Lost, hollow. Then she turned and walked away like she'd forgotten what she was doing entirely. The next day, I passed by the playground near the old church. Usually, it was full of noise, kids screaming, laughing, chasing each other, but that day it was wrong. The parents sitting on the benches looked off. Blank stares. Nervous hands fidgeting. Some were looking at the jungle gym with this odd expression, like they were trying to remember something important but couldn't quite reach it. One woman kept whispering a name under her breath, over and over, only to stop mid-sentence and blink like she'd forgotten what she was saying. I didn't feel crazy anymore. I felt terrified. I stopped going out. I barricaded the windows. Pushed furniture in front of the doors. But it didn't stop the knocking. Every night at 3:13 a.m. on the dot. 3 knocks. Always 3. I'd lie still in bed, breathing through clenched teeth. Eyes squeezed shut. Some nights, I heard footsteps. Small ones. Shuffling. Bare feet. Once, I heard laughter. A little girl. Sharp. Too sharp. And every night, right before the silence returned, a voice, quiet as death itself, would murmur. You remember. You still remember. I started writing everything down. Every moment. Every detail. Because memories were slipping. I'd blink and forget what day it was. I couldn't remember my parents' faces. Even the way Caleb laughed was starting to rot inside my brain, like something had put it in a jar and sealed it, letting it decay. The journal became my lifeline. But even it didn't feel safe. Some mornings, I'd wake up and whole pages were missing. Not torn out. Just blank. It was late afternoon. I forced myself outside. Fresh air, I told myself. Just a short walk. Something to ground me. The sun was low, casting long shadows over the park. I was walking past the same playground, half daring myself to look again. That's when I noticed someone standing just beyond the tree line. A little girl. She wasn't moving. Just standing there at the edge of the grass. No shoes. Her dress was dirty, hanging loose on her frame like it didn't belong to her. Her hair was a tangled mess, jet black and clinging to her cheeks. Her arms hung stiff at her sides. Her head tilted, just slightly, to the right. Her skin looked gray. Like something trying to be human but forgetting what color to be. And her eyes. Too wide. Unblinking. Like glass buttons sewn too tight. I knew that face. Emily. She had gone missing 3 months ago. A post on a forgotten message board. One of those old forums that looked like it hadn't been updated since 2005. A mother was begging for help. My daughter disappeared 3 months ago. Police say she ran away. But I saw her yesterday. She looked the same, but she wasn't. That post disappeared an hour after I read it. But the name stuck, Emily. I remembered that name. A flyer. A newscast. A pair of shoes found by the river. She was 7. Vanished from a birthday party. No leads. No suspects. Gone. But the post said she'd returned. And she was wrong. She was here. But no one else noticed. Kids kept playing nearby. They ran past her, laughed, climbed on the monkey bars, completely blind to the little girl standing only a few feet away from them. She started walking. Slowly. Toward the children near the swings. Her bare feet made no sound on the grass. She passed within arm's reach of them. Not one turned to look. Then she stopped. And turned her head toward me. Her eyes locked on mine, and her mouth curled into a smile that didn't belong to any child. It stretched too wide, peeling back almost to her ears. Her teeth were wrong, pointed, uneven, too many. That was Emily. My legs moved on their own. I ran. Didn't stop until I was home, bolted the door behind me, collapsed onto the floor, gasping. That night, the knocking didn't come from the door. It came from inside the walls. And the voice whispered, not my name, but Caleb's. Over and over. I froze. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My heart beat so loud I thought it would give me away. Then silence. I thought maybe I was safe. That maybe, whatever it was, had given up. And then I heard it. A whisper. Right beside my ear, as if someone was lying in bed next to me. You remember me. And that was when I realized, this wasn't just about Caleb. It was never just about Caleb. The next morning, something felt wrong the second I opened my eyes. I sat up slowly, groggy, my head heavy like I hadn't slept at all. But it wasn't just exhaustion. It was something deeper, like a fog in my bones. I got up and wandered to the kitchen, half asleep, trying to make sense of the unease crawling under my skin. Then I saw it. My ID, lying on the table, name, photo, details, everything. But my last name, it was gone. I blinked hard and rubbed my eyes. Still nothing. A blank smear where my identity should have been. Panic slammed into my chest. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through my messages, my photos, anything that might ground me, prove I still existed. One by one, the texts vanished before my eyes. The pictures, the ones of Caleb and Leah and the rest of my life, gone. Or worse, cropped, warped, twisted, like they'd never been real. I felt my hands shake. I couldn't stop it. My fingers looked lighter, as if the light passed through them too easily. I moved fast, jumped to my laptop, typed furiously, Caleb's name, Emily's, anything that might bring them back. But the screen gave me nothing. No records. No news articles. Not even cached search results. It was like they had never existed. And now, neither was I. That night, with my hands barely solid, and my reflection already half erased, I knew I had one shot left. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. And something in the back of my head, something buried in blood, told me where to go. The house. The one at the edge of town. The one no one talks about. The one Caleb used to talk about. The Whisper House, he called it once, giggling. He said the trees around it didn't grow right. that animals wouldn't go near it. I didn't believe him then. But now, I believed everything. The road to the house was overgrown. Thick weeds swallowed the path. Tree branches stretched low, like arms trying to keep you out, or worse, keep something in. No one came here. Not anymore. Even GPS refused to find it. My phone pulsed weakly in my pocket, stuck on a loading screen that spun like an eye rolling back into its socket. But I remembered. Caleb had once pointed it out from the back seat, his tiny finger pressed against the window. "That's where the forgotten kids live," he'd whispered. "They make you play games you can't win." I'd laughed at the time. God, I laughed. The house crouched at the end of a dirt drive, half sunk into the earth like it was trying to pull itself underground and hide. 2 stories, weather-rotted siding, windows like hollow eyes. Every inch of it whispered don't. I parked across the street, engine off. Wind rushed past the trees, but the house itself was still. Unnaturally still. I told myself I'd just look. Just peek inside. Maybe take a picture. Maybe find some clue, anything to make sense of what was happening. But I knew, even then, I was already too deep. You don't walk into the lion's mouth thinking you'll just look around. The door wasn't locked. It groaned open at my touch, slow and reluctant. Inside, the air was colder. Not just in temperature, but in presence. Like the house had been waiting with bated breath. Everything was draped in white sheets, furniture ghosts frozen mid-motion. The floor creaked underfoot. Dust swirled around me like memory made visible. And then, the whispers began. Faint. From far away. Children's voices. Laughing. Murmuring. Calling out. One of them said my name. Uncle Sam. I stopped breathing. I followed the sound like a dog chasing the scent of something rotten. Down the hallway. Past cracked picture frames filled with warped photographs. Until I reached the room. The door at the end of the hall was slightly open, just enough to see the red glow bleeding out from inside. Not firelight. Something colder. Pulsing like a heartbeat beneath the floorboards. I pushed the door open. The room was empty. Except for a hole in the floor, half covered by broken wood and mold. And something poking out. A small, leather-bound journal. It pulsed with a low red glow. Like it had a heartbeat. Like it wanted to be found. I knelt down, reached for it, and felt warmth rise through my hand, not comforting, but electric. Buzzing with something I couldn't name. Old. Water damaged. The leather cracked like dry skin. The corners black with mold. It smelled like earth and decay. I pulled it free, my hand shaking. Inside, the pages were stiff. Ink smeared. But still readable. The name on the first page stopped my heart cold. Benjamin Holloway. My grandfather. I shoved it into my pocket and followed the whispers deeper into the house. The room grew colder. My breath frosted in the air. From behind me, a whisper curled around my ear like smoke. You should not have remembered. I spun around. And saw them. Children. Dozens. Standing silently in the hallway. Some were barefoot. Others wore tattered clothes. All of them pale, their skin tinged with gray. Hair matted. Smiles too wide. But their eyes. Black, hollow, bottomless. Looking at them was like staring into a hole in the world. And they all knew me. I stepped back into the room, but there was no room anymore. Just shadow. Just cold. Their voices rose as one. A terrible harmony of the forgotten. You broke the rules. You called to us. You remembered. Darkness swallowed me whole. It wasn't like the lights went out. It wasn't like fainting. It was like falling out of reality. Everything around me dissolved into black, and I was falling. Breathing got harder, like trying to inhale water. My limbs flailed but felt weightless, like I was being pulled under. My vision blurred at the edges. My lungs didn't work. My body didn't matter. I was a thought. I was a memory. And memory was poison. I don't know how long I was gone. No time. No space. Just absence. But I woke up in the last place I expected. The playground. Morning light. Birds chirping. Everything looked normal. But I was not. The world had moved on without me. I ran to a woman walking her dog, screamed at her. She looked through me. Tried to touch her. My hand passed through hers like smoke. Reflections in car mirrors stopped showing my face. Every footstep felt lighter. I was fading. Unseen. Unremembered. I looked at my hands, they were disappearing in real time. Fingers fading into flecks of light and dust. My reflection in the window nearby showed only the faintest outline. Like a ghost who hadn't finished dying yet. That's when I pulled the journal from my pocket. It was still warm. Still glowing faintly. I flipped through the ruined pages, desperate for something, anything to undo what I'd done. Then I found them. Scrawled on the back page, barely legible beneath smeared ink and dried blood. The rules. Rules I hadn't known before. Rules I had already broken. And now, you know them too. If you're still listening, you need to pay attention. Because once you remember, they see you. Rule number 1. If a child goes missing, do not say their name. I said it anyway. Caleb, over and over, like the sound of it might bring him back. Like I could pull him out of the darkness just by holding on tight enough. I didn't know the rules then. But ignorance doesn't protect you. Rule number 2. Do not ask about the missing children. Do not try to remember them. I broke that one too. I searched. Police stations, public records, dead forums buried under layers of forgotten pages. I dug too deep. I asked questions that were never meant to be asked. And with each answer I didn't get, something took a little more of me. Rule number 3. If a child returns, do not speak to them. They are not the same. I looked. I listened. When Emily smiled at me with that mouth full of too many teeth, I didn't run fast enough. I didn't look away. I was too human. Too hopeful. And hope, that's the kind of thing they feed on. Rule number 4. If you start to forget someone, do not fight it. The more you remember, the faster you disappear. I clung to every memory. I repeated stories, stared at old photos like they could anchor me. I refused to let Caleb fade. And in doing so, I started to fade myself. Rule number 5. If you see their eyes in the dark, it's already too late. I did. God, I saw them. I didn't even realize what I was looking at until it was already inside me. A weight. A shadow. A slow unraveling. I never stood a chance. The final rule. You cannot save them. You can only join them. When I read that, my heart stopped. It wasn't written in anger or warning. It was a fact. Cold. Final. I dropped the journal. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. My fingers barely had form anymore. I was blinking out like an old memory nobody wanted to remember. But then, I turned the page. And found one more rule. Hidden. Buried. Written in a corner of the final page, scratched in my grandfather's trembling hand. Ink cracked and bleeding like it had taken everything he had to write it. His last words. Even if you break every rule, there is still one way to survive. One final loophole. If you share what happened to you with someone else, then you will be spared. And they will take your place. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It started slow, then spilled out, raw and ugly. Not from joy. Not even relief. but because I finally understood. I felt it as I laughed, like chains loosening around my chest. Like smoke retreating from my lungs. My hands, once ghosted and vanishing, grew solid again. I flexed my fingers. Skin, blood, bone, mine. I picked up the journal. It was warm again. Alive, almost. My reflection in the window. Clear and whole. Because now, I'm telling you. And you? You're next. You heard the story. You know the names. You remembered. And if right now, behind you, if you hear a soft giggle, or a child's whisper brushing against your neck, don't turn around. Because once you do, it's already too late. Welcome to the story. Hey. Thanks for listening. If that story gave you chills, imagine what's coming next. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it with someone who thinks they're brave enough. We'll see you in the next nightmare.